Okay, hi everyone. It's a great honor for me to introduce to you our next keynote speaker. And she is the spokesperson for the entire European Parliament, ensuring the promotion, respect and safeguarding of children's rights in all European Parliament policies, legislation and non-legislative initiatives of the Parliament. She is the founder and co-chair of the first intergroup on children's rights in the European Parliament. She is a fearless, dedicated, and has worked tirelessly to promote children's rights. She is a strong advocate for the most vulnerable children, and even in the cases of strong resistance, she has courageously putting the best interest of the child as the main perspective in global issues. Please welcome the first ever newly appointed by the Parliament President, the European Parliament Coordinator on Children's Rights, Anna Maria Corazza Bildt.
Here we are. Thank you. I say that again. I have been blessed by going around now and meet some of you and see and listen to the amazing work that you're doing. For me, it's like it's really in action. Everything we're talking about, projects and programs to educate, inform, raise awareness, build resilience, empower children, and amazing research work. Thank you for that. I feel that what am I doing on stage? You're doing it all. And I would like to tell you that for us policymakers who are multitaskers and not experts, your work is very, very, very valuable and important. We need your research, we need your studies, we need your tests, we need your expertise, and we need to reach out to you to make sure that it's integrated in policy making. So please reach out to us as well, make sure that we listen to you, and make sure that you communicate to us in a way that we understand, because we are not so good at understanding, and really make sure that your report become European policies and hopefully also global policies. The global dimension is so important. So what is the European Parliament doing? We are the global actor where we want to have children's rights, the promotion and the protection of children's rights as not a small issue, a side issue, a soft issue, but a serious and central issue in the European agenda. That's a fight to give dignity to children in all the policies, internal and external, of the European Union. That's what the work of the European Coordinator is about. That's what the work of the Intergroup for Children's Rights is about. We work cross-political groups, cross-nationalities, and join forces to implement the Convention of the Rights of the Child, which means the best interest of the child should enshrine every policy that affects children. And it's also in Article 3 of the Lisbon Treaty. We have a duty to promote and protect children, also in the treaties of the European Union. So the coordinator is mainstreaming throughout the work of all the committees of the European Parliament, making sure that we monitor, we alert, we see in any of the legislation, in any of the policies, the resolution, and also in our core responsibility with the budget to make sure that the child rights perspective is taken into account. It's not new because I've been now in Parliament for 10 years. We started the first mandate with creating the Child Alliance, then in the second mandate to create the intergroup, and now finally we have a permanent body. So it's institutionalized without being bureaucratized, as I like to say, with the coordinator. So the coordinator is your friend, it's your interlocutor, is your focal point. It's a central focal point for not reinventing the wheel, because without you, we are nothing. So we work extremely closely, of course, with the other European institutions, of course, with the United Nations family, with the Council of Europe, but very much also with civil society and with the business community. On bullying, I would like to say that it's a phenomenon that is scaring as it's increasing exponentially, both in schools and on the net. We don't know enough. There's so much more that we need to get into our policy making and understanding. We don't know enough as parents, as teachers, as rectors, and definitely as policymakers. So what we have done in the European Parliament is very much my priorities have been, and our priorities have been over the years, to focus on ending all forms of violence against children, focusing on the most vulnerable children, and then child participation. So as I always do when I have a speech that is important for me, that I think is really a subject that I care about, I talked yesterday with a 16-year-old and I asked, I'm going to have a speech at the Global Anti-Bullying Forum. What do you think, what do you think about that? What should we do? And he said, well, first of all, bullying has always existed. It's like it's not interesting what you're doing because it actually strengthens children, because when you go over it, it's like you get immunized and you get stronger. So either you fall into depression or you're a strong and mature person, and you have to go through suffering to become a mature person. I thought that was interesting. But then I said, what about the lines with illegality, with children that becomes sick, that commit self-harm, and all the way to committing suicide? I said, no, okay, that part is important, and of course it happens in schools, and on the net, that's really where it's more dangerous. What should we do? And he said, education and parents. Parents should talk to their kids. They should detect, they should prevent. They should not feel this barrier that because it's online, we don't know what it is, that we don't talk about it because we don't know how to talk about it. That's what he said. I thought it was really interesting. He said, give us the tools, then we do it. Don't do it yourself. Give us the tools. So I share what I heard, and I was really impressed by that. In the European Parliament, we have taken 2 historical resolutions to protect the most vulnerable. One on the people from African descent. The protection of people from African descent. That was a very historical resolution because, as you know, there's several generations of people that have migrated to Europe from Africa who don't have the same role models since they are new and who are discriminated because of the color of their skin at school and online. And we specifically introduced provisions on the protection of children. The same we did an historic resolution on people of intersex parents and intersex people. That's also very historical. And there also we introduced provisions on the protection of children. In the resolution of the European Parliament on the strategy for the Roma people, we specifically introduced one part on the protection and non-discrimination of Roma children, and so on and so forth. So we are working across the spectrum to tackle where vulnerable children, children with disabilities, children living in institutions, children of LGBTI parents, LGBTI children or children perceived to be LGBTI, and other vulnerable children can never be discriminated because of their sexual orientation, because of the color of their skin, because of their migration status, or because of their ethnic background. That's a fundamental value and principle of the European Union. In our time, in our world, we need to repeat it. It's not given for granted anymore. We have ideology against rights. Let's put rights back at the center of the policy making in Europe. And thank you for that. And then because we believe in cross-fertilization, we believe we have to learn from you, we have been hosting, and we are a platform, we are a megaphone for you. We have been hosting several important events. For instance, with IGLU, which is the organization of youth and students of the LGBTI community, and they presented, together with UNESCO, report an index on systemic discrimination of LGBTI children. And we have also presented together with Friends. Thank you for having us. Friends is doing an amazing work. They're from Sweden, I have to say it. I'm so proud of them. Friends is been together with NESEC, the network of experts on the social aspects of bullying. A report which is really good, that was 2017. It really outlines concrete measures how to prevent and how to tackle bullying. I really strongly recommend it. It's been very much useful for us. So this is very much just to give you a feeling of what we do on especially minority and vulnerable groups. Then, of course, in school, that's an amazing phenomenon, and there we have also been doing a lot of work by bringing to the European Parliament experts experts from the world and from the member states to tell us what to do. And let me tell you now more on what we do in terms of legislation, because we are first of all legislators. We have taken a historical law, European law directive on sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, child pornography, online and offline in 2011. I was part of all of this, and I've been in charge now this mandate for the implementation report. And this has really been a game changer in terms of providing a legal framework, definitions, common standards, and sanctions, minimum sanctions for the perpetrators. The result is that the member states are not doing enough. They have to do more, faster, and more effective, because the digital world goes so much faster than politics. So my report has been a call of action. And the people I met, the children we met, the children we invited, I mean, the magnitude of the phenomenon is scaring. In Europe, 1 in 5 children are victims of some kind of sexual harassment, sexual exploitation, or child pornography. And Europe is the part of the world where there is most illegal content. Well, sexual abuse material is illegal content. So it's really important that we join forces to do much more. So my recommendations have been, and of course this includes bullying. My report has been to modernize our legislations, because from 2011 to now, we have new forms of crimes. Grooming, of course cyberbullying, but also sex extortion, revenge pornography, and other forms of harassment that affect an entire generation of kids who live online. So, to summarize what we ask, much more cross-border cooperation, much more support to law enforcement authorities, giving them the innovative technological investigation tools that they need, a future-proof implementation and enforcement of the legislation, because this network of criminals have the most sophisticated technological tools at their disposal and a lot of financial resources. We cannot allow that our law enforcement authorities lag behind. And then, of course, for those material that is based in Europe, removal, and when it's not possible to remove the illegal material, block it. When it's outside of the European Union, strengthen the cooperation with Interpol, with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in the US, which is doing amazing work, with whom we have very good cooperation, and of course, more shared responsibility from the internet community and the platforms. And that's very much where the problem lies. If they don't change, we will change them. We don't want to restrict the freedom of expression, the freedom of our children to live online, the learning, the amazing possibility that the internet offers to them. But if the Facebook and the Googles and the others don't understand that there's also illegality to fight online, we will act. They didn't believe that we would do it. But then we did the copyright, we did GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. And then we did, just now we adopted an important regulation that introduces a mandatory removal within 1 hour of illegal content online for terrorist recruitment and radicalization. It's absolutely historical to get that 1 hour, thanks to you. Evidence-based policies, because there was enormous scientific evidence that 1 hour is enough to radicalize and recruit a 15-year-old to become a suicide bomber. That's why we did it, not to restrict freedom. And we managed to introduce in a recital, not in an article, unfortunately, the issue of mandatory removal of sexual abuse and pornographic material online. It has to be one of the first legislation that the new parliament will have to put on the table. I am already talking with the Commission on that. Illegal material has to be removed. Do we agree on that? We cannot make a difference between illegality in the physical world, where we call the police and they act, and illegality online, that because we don't understand how the online world works, we don't consider it illegal online. It has to be neutral. A crime is a crime. And I also have been responsible for the Istanbul Convention, which is the only international legal framework to prevent, combat violence against women and girls, men's violence against women and girls, and protect victims. And there is the same. Member states should do more, faster, and better to implement and enforce it, to train law enforcement authorities, to provide the psychological and health care that the victims need, and so on and so forth. And then we have the Victims Directive, which is really important, because double victimization, breaking the silence, making sure that children are heard in a tribunal in a way that does not intimidate them or does not prevent them from wanting to report. Going from the feeling of guilt and shame and blame, that is my fault, to reporting the perpetrator, shifting the guilt from the child victim to the perpetrator. All of this, we have the world's highest standards and safeguards now to enable or facilitate children to be able, as victims, to be able to be more protected. It's a law that really we should be proud about. Let's implement it. We also have the legal framework on hate, and as you know, this is another issue where our kids have as role models, very much on the platforms and on the social media, hate and threat and a rhetoric that is knife sharp, where the climate of violence, the models of violence are being increased rather than diminished, and we need to build a culture of respect where our children learn to respect each other. And as you know, mobbing and cyberbullying among children is increasing. And online, you don't see, because of the anonymity, the other person in front of you that is crying. The anonymity of online makes, and the bubbles of the platform social media communities makes, they call it communities, you can also call it bubble, make it that the models they have are motivating more bullying, not discouraging bullying. You see what I mean? So it's really so important that we all join forces. I mean, my motto is together. That's really the thing, together. We will never make it if we don't join forces. Teachers, rectors, parents, guardians, institutions, social workers, academic community, and the business community. There are tools. Technology is on our side. There are tools to identify, to detect illegal material. There are companies like NetClean or others. I don't want to single out one or the other. There's a lot of champions and heroes out there who are doing it. I have been meeting at the Global World Congress There's a Barcelona every year, all the best and the brightest in the world gather there, and they themselves are doing an amazing work. With the telecom community, mobile operators, we have a standing dialogue, some of us, with them. And some are really doing a great job. They have parental filters by default, etc., etc. But it's not enough. And self-regulation has to be much, much, much stronger than what it is now. Last night I was talking with Commissioner Maria Gabriel, who is the European Commissioner for digitalization, the digital economy and society. We are talking very seriously together about reviving and strengthening what is called the Alliance, maybe some of you are aware of that, the Alliance for Better Internet for Kids. We have been really rolling out in the European Union the past years very, 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 I think, considered good programs for safe internet for kids, which are very much supporting what you are doing, the awareness raising, the information, the education, the resilience, the active citizenship, the involving all the national networks. And I'm very happy that Maria Gabriel is so committed to revive it. And there you have more or less 25 companies in the ICT community. It's chaired by the Commission. The Parliament has now been part of it with the coordinator. And that's part of what we need to do, work together in dialogue. For concluding, I would like to say that my concern in Trump and Putin and Brexit times is really that we see that extreme right populism and sexism go hand in hand. We have, in some of the member states, clear backlash, which sounds crazy to say, on women's rights and on girl rights. But this is also affecting children. The ultra-conservative, extreme right ideology and gender ideology is coming into policy making. It's normalizing what was unacceptable just a few years ago. It's all behind the issue of family values. I very much care about family values, but not to be manipulated against children. We see paternalism coming back. Our drive has been to move both the legislation and the policy making at the attitude of society, from parents to children, from teachers to children, children-centered. A child is a right holder, it's a person, it's a citizen. To involve them. We have been in European Parliament very much pioneers in inviting children to talk to us. Maria Gabriel and I, we devised our policy by taking notes of children that were there with us or in video link with other member states telling us what to do. It's small, it's not enough, but it's the way we work and want to continue to work. Well, we see this trend of paternalism, which really is scaring. I hope that at least we can be aware of what's happening, that we're going backwards instead of forward in some member states. And globally, my second concern is, as we are now going to roll out 5G, blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, big data, which is everything is great, is going to change our lives for the better. There will be much more children abused online. There's going to be much more sexual abuse, much more pornographic material. There's a dark side of it. Maybe in countries who don't have the same strong institutions that we have in Europe, that don't have the same, at least legally protected conventions of human rights as we have in Europe. And I think it's important that we take a global responsibility and start addressing those who deny that this exists. Because there are some areas in the world where there is a state of denial, complete state of denial, that bullying exists or that sexual abuse exists, because families are taking care of everything and one should just trust the family where the father is the head of the household. I'm sure you are familiar with all of this. In conclusion, I would like to say that I did a report which, with my recommendations, which I strongly hope and fight for to be the base of the work of the next Commission, Parliament, and Member States, fairly ambitious. I'm presenting it to the Bureau of the European Parliament to be endorsed, adopted, to become the basis of our future work. And I will really continue to be committed to work with you and all the child rights champions who want to make sure that our children are safe and well-being. Thank you so much. Thank you.